Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Mike.
Hey. It's getting slimmer around these parts.
Yeah. No, Zach is he's just got his in-laws are in town, so he's preoccupied.
Oh, I thought we were gonna go with Zach is delivering Christmas presents to boys and girls around the world, so that's why he's not here this week. He's playing.
Oh yeah, let's go with that. He was growing out the beard a little bit, so maybe that's why.
He's also, I think he's got the personality for it too. He's very
definitely very jolly.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are going to talk about Legion today. We're going to talk about Lando and Kallus because we got actual previews for them. And we're also going to do a little just sort of meta pontificating after that if we have time. So first, let's hit some housekeeping. Got any housekeeping for us?
Yeah, so we are still doing the 12 Days of Christmas with alongside the Legion Discord. So we are giving away 12 boxes of Phase 2 Clone Troopers. You can go ahead and check that out at thefifthtrooper.com/giveaway. And again, I will put that in the link to the video on YouTube again. And I'll this week I'll also put it in the Facebook posts because many people asked about that. So if you're looking to get your hands on some Phase 2s, we've got them. I mean, I also think nowadays the stores have restocks, so it's a little bit less of a pressing issue. But free stuff is free stuff, right? Also, if you're looking for some last-minute Christmas gifts, we have all sorts of stuff on our store. We've got contrast paints, board games, Wild West Exodus minis. We have, I think, what is it? Flames of Wars is the Army one, the Army mini game. I don't know.
There's more than one of those.
Yeah, I know.
Bolt action,
right? Yeah, that one. I'm not sure we actually carry dust.
Okay.
But
yeah,
we've got
right,
bolt action. Bolt action is right. We've got Blood Red Skies. We've got a bunch of that stuff. So check it out if you're looking for some last minute Christmas gifts. And I think that pretty much covers it for housekeeping. There was, I don't know, did the time frame to enter the Invader League, it's not actually called Invader League, the map making contest, is that over?
Battle Lines.
Yes,
it is over. It ended yesterday. We recorded on Monday, so that would be Sunday. It ended. But so we are now in the public map voting phase. I'm not super clear on how this is going to work, but basically the public votes on the maps and then the judges assess the maps and we end up with 5 maps. So
if you want maps that you want, you should probably vote. Right?
Yes. Check out the Discord. There weren't any actual official announcements today about how to vote, but they did put the maps in a mod that you can then go look at. You can actually load them up on TTS and look at them. So I would suggest doing that. They've said this time around that emphasis is going to be placed foremostly, I don't think that's a word, first on competitive viability, and then after that on theme and appearance. So they also have a rubric posted on the Discord. Anyway, I'm clearly the wrong person to ask about this. I did make some maps myself. I'm asking you anyways,
Kyle.
Yeah,
you seem to be the person of the three of us that knew the most. So I figured.
Well, I did make some maps.
Did you submit
maps? One? Yes, I actually submitted 3.
Okay, all right.
So I'm as I said, maybe last cast or 2 casts ago, I'm a perennial backseat driver when it comes to maps. So because my technical skills are limited when it comes to that sort of thing. But I figured it would be a good experience for me, at least, to just sort of appreciate all the hard work that goes into making maps to try and do it myself. I did not try anything fancy. I just used the existing assets that were in the mod and kind of placed them like I was setting up a table in real life. And that's it. So they're not super pretty. One of my maps is called the Fugly Industrial Complex.
The Fugly Industrial Complex.
Yep.
Nice.
It's pretty fugly. Yeah. Yeah. But I hope that they're good maps competitively and fun to play on. So anyway, vote for me.
There you go. Along with that line of thought, I believe Invader signups are coming up, I think, at the beginning of January. So
January 4th.
Everybody get ready for that. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people signing up, a lot of slots that are probably going to get filled very quickly. So, the earlier, the better you sign up for that. I'm sure we'll be able to plug that a few more times before it actually happens. But Christmas and New Year's are coming up. So,
Yeah, don't miss that date.
Nope.
It's going to fill up pretty quick.
Yeah.
I remember even last time, and I expect interest to be even greater this time because we're still in the midst of no conventions and stuff. But even last time, it was just a matter of a couple of days. And, a few days later where people like, oh, did Invader happen? I meant to sign up for that. And I'm like,
yeah, too late. Sorry.
It's full.
Yeah.
So, yeah, January 4th, get on the Discord and you'll get all the updates if you're not on there.
I think that's the kit and caboodle for housekeeping.
All right, sweet. Did you get any painting done?
Did I get any painting done? No, I did not get any painting done. I thought about it multiple times. So I'm gonna use this as an excuse. It's probably not super fair, but I'm up at my parents' for the holidays, and they have cats, and they're very in your face. If my door wasn't shut right now, my cat would be on my desk in front of me. Like, you'd probably be able to see it on camera. It just wants to be in your way all the time. And I'm not sure I want to get my Citadel and Army Painter paints out and have cats walk all over it. That's probably not a fair excuse to the cats, because probably wouldn't be an issue, but that's the excuse I'm going to use.
I have three cats, so I managed to paint with 3 cats around. So
yeah, so I guess it's not a reasonable excuse.
And they do also like to be in your face. So in fact, one is right behind me right now. Yeah, I started on Mr. Kenobi here, the only Republic model I own.
One day you're gonna buy into the Republic faction. I know you are. You're eventually going to give in.
Well, I love, besides just the character, I love the unit Obi-Wan Kenobi, in Republic. He's like the perfect, because I'm a very defensive player, but I also love Force users, and that's literally what Obi-Wan is. So I'm not going to lie, I am seriously considering playing Republic for Invader.
Really? Whoa. This is news to me. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are front row seats to Kyle Dornbos giving in to the dark side of the Force here. So what's the story? What's the deal?
Well, there's a couple factors here. The first is that people are saying that they got over nerfed, which I do not agree with. But if that's the perception, then I'm not going to be the bad guy if I play Republic,
you're
right?
You're gonna be the bad guy when clones stomp everybody in Invader League again.
Well,
people maybe say they're over nerfed now, but when they get hit with 20 aim tokens at the end of the turn, maybe they'll feel differently.
Yeah. They're the only faction I have not played in any major tournament.
Because you played CIS in Invader last season.
Yep. So it's always good to. Part of the reason I randomly played Empire on a whim in whatever season that was, 3, was because I hadn't played them yet. And I'm like, you need experience for the factions that you haven't played.
And man, that went terribly. It just didn't go well at all.
Being sarcastic, of course.
For those that don't know, he won that.
Yes, that is accurate. That was the Veers Bosk season, back after Bosk had just come out. So, that was fun. I went in totally cold. I would not do that with Republic. First, because I actually have played games with Republic at this point. I don't know. I love Obi-Wan. I think with the barrier, we can talk about this later when we get to what do we think are going to be good lists now? But I think you can make kind of a silly "you can't kill me" list with Obi-Wan and barrier and like situational awareness and dodge sharing. I mean, potentially weak to like high velocity, but that's kind of what barrier's for, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it'll soak like one of 2 AAT shots, basically, right?
Yeah.
You know, which is still good.
Yeah, and then you got to lean on your red saves for the rest of the, you know, if you get shot more than the first time. But
yeah, I mean, I think that it's possible. It's good. I just, yeah, we can talk about that in a bit.
yeah, I mean, clearly Rex is still Rex.
Rex is god tier.
But I'm also not saying I wouldn't play Rex, so not at the same time. It would be one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I still think we're in probably can't play them at the same time territory. It would be great. It's just, it's really hard to fit 2 Republic characters in a list.
It is. Sorry, Zach. But you're not here, so
right.
I agree with Mike.
Kapow, kapow, kapow.
All right, let's talk about Lando and Kallus. It's been a bit since Empire and Rebels got some love, but man, these 2 dudes look awesome. Before we hit the individual unit cards, let's talk about the thing that there's actually technically 2 things they have in common, but let's talk about the major big thing they have in common, which is a new mechanic, and that is contingencies.
All right, so contingencies allows you to bring more than 6 command cards. Basically, it allows you to have a secondary hand of command cards up to whatever your contingencies value is. So, for instance, Agent Kallus has contingencies 2, so you get to kind of put 2 command cards that you are eligible to take into Kallus's contingency pile. And then you get to like swap them out during the game. Basically, if you play a command card in your original command hand, you can swap it out for a command card in your contingency command hand that has the same pip value. I believe blue player does it before red player, if I'm recalling correctly. You can correct me on that. But this is super sweet because you can take more than 6 command cards if you take Kallus or Lando, which I think is huge. I think it's amazing. I think it's a mix-up that the game really needed. Maybe not needed, but it's something I've been wanting for a long time, is like the ability to take more than 6 command cards. I would love to see this on an upgrade, you know, like a command upgrade that's like, your hero gets contingency 1 or something. I think that would be super sweet. Yeah, I think this is awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited. This is essentially like a sideboard for command cards.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's like it's like a sideboard that you can play out of the entire game, right? Unless something bad happens. I will say that it's a little bit complicated how it works and like what you should put where and things like that. We were talking about it a little bit before the cast about the nuances of whose cards you put in your regular hand and whose cards you put in your contingencies hand. You actually changed my mind like 20 minutes before we started this cast, so that hurt my soul a little bit, but you're always generally right, so I'll give you that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and notably, you can see your opponent's card before you decide whether or not to use your contingencies. The first thing I thought of when I saw this was Operative Luke with Lando.
I mean, Operative Luke Lando, like, I think Lando could just have the command card that he's been spoiled with, and he's like an auto include with Luke. We'll get to that in a minute, I suppose, but Luke Lando seems real good, and to that effect, Kallus Vader also seems real good. Just from like all these heroes that have 6 command cards were a little bit tough tough, maybe not the right word, but it felt a little bad to include them in an army that had another hero in it, because you didn't have enough slots for all these sweet command cards. And now they're like, here's Kallus, you can have 2 more command cards. And you're like, oh, well, I can take 8 command cards. If I run Vader Kallus, I only have to give up 1 of them. That seems great, I don't know. It seems like a natural first place to look, I think, with these two units.
Oh, totally. Because you're looking at, with Rebels, suppose you take Luke, Lando, and R2, that's 12 command cards right there. And then you got 3 more for generics. That's 15 to pick from. But you can pick 9 of them.
Yeah, and I think that we start getting into like territory where your opponent actually doesn't know what's in your hand anymore, as far as this sort of thing goes. When, like, if you take Luke, Lando plus 1 hero, whether it's R2 or Leia or whatever, like, you've got like 20 plus command cards to pick from, and you've got to, you get to take 9. But they still don't know what you're going to take. I think that Contingencies really encourages higher hero count lists, which I think is sweet. I think it also, makes cards like Covert Observations less niche, in that, you can sideboard Covert Observation and pull it out of the hat if, you need it. You're like, oh, I'm not playing Tac Strike today. Okay, it just stays in the sideboard, right? But if you, it doesn't really cost you anything, and which isn't necessarily true, but it still costs you a contingency slot. But you can kind of, you have a contingency plan, right? It's kind of thematic. It makes sense. So I think that's really cool. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Think of I Am a Jedi, right, in your contingencies pile.
Right. Like, I think 9 times out of 10, you probably wouldn't take that if you were running 2 heroes, right, before. And now you're like, well, I only need it like 15% of the games I play. But now you're like, well, I can always take it and pull it out when I need it. And when I don't need it, whatever. It just, it's the command card. I didn't play that game, right? I think there's a lot of command cards in the game that feel like that kind of sit on the sidelines because they're a little too niche, and this can kind of bring them a little bit more to prominence. That's not even to talk about like the funky shenanigans you can do when you pair this ability with, I don't know, say cunning.
Yeah, think about playing, like like ambush or something, and your opponent plays ambush, and you're like, you know what, I think I'll just go ahead and swap this out for face me, and I'll just take priority, thanks.
Yeah, it's like, and if they don't play ambush, you're like, oh, I got priority, right? And I can save my cunning 1 pip for when I need it, right? So that seems a little brutal. You have to, like, I think you're depending on what is his. So just to be clear, we haven't really gotten to this. We're kind of jumping the gun here, but Kallus also has cunning for those of you who may not have looked at his unit card. Lando does not. Sorry, Rebel players. It seems like it's kind of a dark sidey keyword up until this point, at least. So not that Kallus is dark sidey, but neither was Krennic. It's a bad guy keyword, I guess. So like, you got to be a little bit, because like if you play, like whatever Kallus's 2 pip ends up being, if you play like push and then they play ambush, you can't upgrade it at that point, right? You've kind of lost the so you and I think to talk about the generics, we were talking about this before the cast, and this is where I think you changed my mind a little bit. I think that there might be a little bit more play to just the generics, and in that if you lose a hero and you've got like all hero cards in your command hand and the contingency plan hand, you kind of get screwed a little bit. Like it doesn't works super well. Now, with that being said, when you lose a hero in a game of Legion, like, you often are not doing super hot, so it's a little bit of a lose more, I guess. But I do think that like having a generic in your command hand, like if you take like Luke and Lando, and you take like whatever Lando's one pip is and one of Luke's one pip and an ambush, and you like keep Luke's one pip and ambush in your command hand, and whatever Lando's one pip is, I think the name of it's actually spoiled in his article, though we don't know what it does. Yeah, it's Idiot's Array. And you can kind of use ambush to like sideboard out for Lando's card when you need it, but if Lando dies, you don't like lose a command card, if you will. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not going to be immediately clear what the the correct strategy is with contingencies is going to be. I will say a point that you touched on, which is, you shouldn't plan on characters dying, because if that happens, you're probably going to lose anyway. So, like, losing the cards in your contingencies hand, or, losing cards in your main hand and then not being able to swap stuff probably is the least of your concerns if you lose one of your primary characters. But
yeah, I do think that there's merit to like making sure that you have command cards in your main command hand from all of your heroes. Just that if like you don't want to like sandbag everything in your contingency pile for like a hero that like, I don't know, like if you're contingent. So what's important here is that if the guy with contingencies dies, you lose the contingency hand, right? So that don't let them die, I guess, is really what it boils down to.
yeah, but the thing we talked about too before the cast is, in your example, you got Operative Vader and Kallus, right? You got 6 Vader cards and 3 Kallus cards. If you have all of Vader's cards in your hand and then 2 Kallus cards in your contingencies pile, if Vader dies, you can't play any of those. You can't play any of Kallus's cards either.
Right, you're stuck.
All you can play is standing orders, and yeah. It's got to be you got to be able to match the pip. So, it's not like you're equally screwed either way, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, I think that they're like in a configuration like that, you're probably on like, 3 or 4 of Vader's cards in your main hand with like some generics, and then put Kallus's in his 2 of Kallus's in his contingencies pile. That way you can and make sure that those ones match the generic pips, right? And you can kind of get around that a little bit, as long as you don't play the generics early, I guess, but it's, yeah. Let's actually get into these units, I think, because they're pretty sweet outside of contingencies.
Yeah, I'll start with Kallus.
Yeah, so Kallus is a whopping 90 points for an Imperial hero. He is an Imperial commander, notably. So definitely takes up the command slot. We have gotten, he's not like Iden where she like flexes or anything. He's got cunning, contingencies 2. He's got flawed, though we have not seen his flawed card. So we don't know what that is. It's gonna likely operate similar to Anakin's flawed card and how it mechanically operates from your opponent gets to, use it or whatever, but it, clearly it's going to have completely different text. Who knows what that's going to be? He's got Sharpshooter 1, Tactical 1, which seems strong. Surge crit, red save, pretty standard for Imperials. 6 health, pretty standard. 2 courage, so a little bit of downgrade from Iden. He's got 2 red in melee, and then his generic, I should say he's got 2 red in melee. We'll get to his upgrades in a second here. He's generically got 2 red in melee. He's got a blaster pistol that's range 2, that's 2 black and 1 white, which is Pierce 1. However, similarly to Iden, he has a armament slot with what I would argue is a very mandatory looking upgrade, and that is his J19 Bow Rifle Blaster dash staff, I guess you could say. It's a flip card like Cassian, or Jin's got one too, right?
Yep, she has one too.
Hers is a flip card.
Yeah, people just never use the back of it. So
yeah, people also never use Jin. So
well, that too. Yeah.
You know, although now that it's 0 points, and it is 0 points now, right?
It's always been 0 points.
Okay, well, never mind. All right, I was trying to.
The Pathfinder one is the one that was initially, I think, like 6 points, and now it's 0 points.
Pour one out for Jin and Pathfinders, guys. But yeah, so the J19 Bow Rifle Blaster, I think the setting that you're probably always going to have it start on is a range 1 to 3 red, black, white, lethal 1 gun. For 25 points. It has reconfigure, which means when you recover it, you can flip the card. The other side is kind of bonkers. I think, pretty crazy. It has got the same dice profile as the range weapon, except it's a staff and melee only, except you basically you gain charge, and when you're defending against a melee attack, you gain immune pierce, and you retain the lethal. It's a mini lightsaber, basically, is what this is.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the Darksaber, except it gives you charge. Clearly, the dice are not
super good.
Yeah, now obviously Darksaber has native pierce on it, and this has lethal, but he also has tactical. So
yeah, he's got tactical, and I think we would be remiss to talk about the bow rifle if we didn't also talk about his 1-pip card, which feels sort of tailor-made to be like, I'm flipping my gun to a staff and then smashing you in the face with it. So his 1-pip is Face Me. It issues an order to just him. Pretty standard. He gains Agile 1 and Block. So on the turn he plays this, he's not only got tactical, he's got Agile. So every time he moves, he gains an aim and a dodge token, which is pretty swell. Additionally, during his activation, he may perform a free recover action, which allows you to flip the staff for free. And then, while enemy units are engaged with Agent Kallus, they cannot withdraw, which is... I think the first time you read this card, you're like, wow, that's really powerful. I think people are going to find that clause is generally not nearly as meaningful as they think it will be. Just because the things that you generally like want to pin are things like Jedi, and they don't really care about this because it doesn't say you can't be force pushed, right? Like, they just force push you and move away. Now it's going to be great against like General Grievous, I think.
Oh yeah, or Tauntauns, or any, if you get up and close and personal with Kallus, any like opposing trooper unit, being able to get in there as a first activation and basically guarantee that you're safe from ranged fire against like an enemy trooper line is pretty good.
Yeah,
but used defensively against Jedi.
Yeah, not super great. It's not going to help you in the... It feels more like a... we talked a lot, I think, last cast about the term linebacker. This feels like a linebacker card. Like, Kallus does not feel like he's going to be... maybe contrary to the title of the card, I think he's going to be a lot more defensive than offensive, given this... like what we've seen so far, in that I still don't think you want him to like get super up in someone's face where like, you play your 1-pip, you get in there and they can't withdraw for a turn, that's fine, but they're going to withdraw next turn, right? I don't know.
Yeah, and frankly, the ranged attack is great, right? Red, black, white with sharpshooter 1 and tactical. That's a really good pool for a character. So
yeah,
and surge crit.
I mean, I think we've talked about I think some inherent synergies with like Vader. I think we also need to talk about like inherent synergies with probably Iden. Like it seems like Kallus is just like, I don't know, very good alongside her too. And I think additionally with Seize the Initiative being in the pool, a good character. Not that Krennic isn't good, but a people will get upset with me if I, but he's not super great these days. But Kallus looks pretty good, assuming his flawed card is like not debilitating. And cunning on a good hero, along with Seize the Initiative and Contingencies, seems really powerful as far as I get to control my heroes and know who goes first basically always.
And we don't even know what his other two command cards do.
Yeah, I mean, like I think his other two command cards basically could be blank, and he would probably be great, right? Like I think they could be push and assault. And he'd be pretty good, assuming again that his flawed card is not debilitating, like Anakin's. Right. So we'll have to wait on that. FFG did the thing where they, don't give us the whole meal. They only give us. They're like, here's your French fry. You got to wait another half hour for the hamburger. But why don't we flip over to the Rebel side of things? You want to take us through Lando?
Sure. So Mr. Lando Calrissian, very similar setup here. He's got Contingencies 3, so slightly better than Kallus. He does not have Cunning. He does have Covert Ops, so this is the same keyword that Cassian and Iden have, where he can basically deploy as an infiltrator and then become an operative, and then you nominate someone else to be a commander. Interestingly, you could run him and Cassian at the same time, use Covert Ops on both of them, and then have 4 operative tokens.
I mean, you laugh, but I actually think, and I don't know if that list specifically is super great, but like, I do think that having like, being able to like go to your bag and have like 4 operative tokens in it is like, and be able to use it wherever you want is actually a pretty powerful thing to do. We talked a lot again last episode in our list building episode where we're talking about like the mix in your bag and the fact that it's sometimes hard to draw a hero if you don't have orders on them. I don't know, getting 4 operatives seems it's unique and we haven't seen it happen yet, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It could be very good.
It could be, and I mean basically that would be probably Lando, Cassian, K2, and then R2. Now you could do some other combination, but I was spitballing lists over the weekend, and you can actually get to 12 activations with that. And it's not like 12 activations of junk. That's like, so those 4 characters, 3 snipers, which gets you to 7, and then you can take like 5 core, and those core are some combination of rebel vets and rebel troopers with DLTs. So it's not terrible. I don't know. I'm excited for this, for Contingencies. Rebel players for a long time have been like, I want to take all the characters, but I just cannot justify cutting all these command cards. Well, now you don't have to. So he also has the flawed keyword. Again, we don't know what his flawed card is either. He's got Sharpshooter 2, Mr. Ace Shot there, Lando, and Uncanny Luck 2. So this is the same keyword Han has, where he can reroll failed saves on defense. It's only 2. I think Han's is 3, so slightly worse. This essentially is, at least for those 2 dice that you're re-rolling, they're slightly better than like a red save. It's a 55% chance on a re-rolled white die to get a save. So he's not durable, but he's slightly more durable than some other rebel support characters. So
yeah, can we just like, how did Lando end up with Sharpshooter 2 and Han only has Sharpshooter 1? Is what I want to know.
I don't know.
Doesn't that feel like, I don't know, whatever.
It does. It feels weird. It's the pistol here is Lando's X8 Night Sniper pistol, which I think is the one that he uses in Battlefront, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, maybe. I was never a fan of playing Rebels in Battlefront, so I don't actually
Okay.
know what the gun is called, but
So
maybe that
there's
would be.
and there's actually, if you look at the card art in here, there's a mission where you play Lando and you're like invading an Imperial facility on a lava planet with Shriv, who's the hilarious sarcastic Duros that is in that game. This is Battlefront 2, by the way. Spoiler alert if you haven't played that through that campaign.
Spoiler for the campaign has been out for like 10 years now. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we'll
I know.
work.
I think, yeah. Um, so I think this is essentially, we're getting the, you know, like around the Return of the Jedi time period, General Calrissian version of Lando. At least that's what the card art shows, and that's what this text would seem to indicate.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's a commander at all kind of
Yeah,
suggests
right,
that, right? Like at that point, he's General Calrissian, right? And
right.
I think if we got like I don't know, it would be cool to get like Bespin Lando, which I think is either like an operative or would be like a commander for a faction that doesn't exist. Like I don't know what that would be. It would be like Bespin guards, but clearly we don't have that. So
Well, there is Bespin Lando on the card art of the command card they showed us.
that's very fair, and I think uh, just to get away from his unit card because the card he's got a sweet cape in that card art. I think he comes with like 3 or 4 capes.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see this sprue. I hope that there's multiple capes to choose from.
Well, I mean,
Look,
if you scroll up in the article, there's at
uh-huh.
least 3 because each pose has a different cape.
You're right. Yeah, so that is in fact 3 distinct capes. Yeah, you got one pose where he's kind of like drawing a gun, and he's got, it's a more spread out cape. You've got the pose where he's like, there's multiple head things too, but he's kind of smirking and like drawing his pistol. And then another one with a third completely different cape, which and combined with that first pose. So yeah, at least 3 capes.
Well,
That's good. That's awesome.
well
Nice
done.
job. Nice job, FFG. Corey, Derek, you guys are doing great work. Multiple capes. All right, let's finish walking through this unit card here. He also has his melee is bad. It's black white, but if he's in melee, you're probably in trouble already. And then his night sniper pistol is red black with Pierce 1. So combined with sharpshooter 2, that is extremely reliable damage. Like he's not going to be wiping units or anything, but you're going to be picking up 1 to 2 models every time he shoots, basically.
Yeah, he seems super strong against like red safe core units, particularly clones and Empire, clearly. Which probably is needed these days.
Yeah, although Rebels, ironically, probably already the best faction at stacking Pierce. but
Yeah. I mean, that's very true.
But yeah, picking off some phase 2s is going to be value town for Lando. All right, let's talk about this. We do know one of his command cards that is called Ace Up His Sleeve. Usually they hide, like, the command card they show us is kind of like, yeah, it's fine. This is a really good command card.
This card is busted. It is busted.
I don't know if I go that far, but it's really clearly this is going to be like all right, let's just read the command card. So this has a line split in the middle of it, which means that it has 2 separate effects. Above the line, Lando Calrissian and 1 unit. When Lando Calrissian issues an order to a unit, it gains 1 dodge or 1 standby token. So one of these units has to be Lando. This isn't quite like Deploy the Garrison where you can just, But the other unit could be like Luke Skywalker.
I mean, I'm sorry. This card to me says 2-pip, ace up his sleeve, issue orders to Lando Calrissian and Luke Skywalker. Like it doesn't say 1 unit on it. It says Lando and Luke, and Lando probably takes a dodge token and Luke takes a standby token, and I don't know. I'm sorry. I like taking free standby. Have we seen a free standby token effect on a force user before? Technically you can do it with Deploy the Garrison. I've tried it with Vader. It's kind of hard to pull off. I don't know. But like if you can't shoot, if they they get the standby token and they're already in melee, it's incredibly difficult to get it off without it triggering.
Yeah, unless you have Force Push or Jedi Mind Trick.
Well, even if you have Force Push, you still have to be a ranged one already,
yeah.
right? Like you've got to be you got to be on top of them.
Right. Yeah, suppressive melee weapons are extremely rare. Basically, Palpatine's lightning and Jin's baton. I think that's it.
I think Dewbacks might be suppressive melee.
Oh yeah, okay.
But like again,
it's a short list,
right? It's like 3 units. Yeah. I mean, do you think that like you're ever using the bottom text?
Yeah, so I think you are, because this is essentially like a on-demand face-up order at the exact moment that you need it. So the bottom part says, before drawing from your order pool, you may instead discard this card from your contingencies or hand. If you do, issue an order to Lando Calrissian or a friendly unit at range 1 to 2 of him, then activate that unit. So it's kind of like a safety valve, right? Like if there comes a situation where you absolutely need to activate something, which does happen, you're like, oh crap, I need to activate this thing now, and you can't get an order to them, you can just play Ace Up His Sleeve from your hand or your contingencies pile, and then activate them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this gets around double the fall, right?
Yep, it gets around double the fall. You could use it in combination with like Sorry About the Mess. Yeah. If you wanted to essentially get 2-0 pip orders.
It's kind of like a mid-turn HQ uplink, right? Like
it's an on-demand HQ uplink.
Yeah,
which seems great to me, honestly.
It definitely is. I just the standby token is so, as someone who's used standby tokens a lot lately. The other thing is that I feel like this card reads like when Lando Calrissian issues an order to a unit, it gains 1 standby token. Like I don't know, like the dodge token.
The standby is clearly the best effect on the card.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I think this card is busted. I think it's busted. I think we're gonna see a lot of it.
It's certainly good on Jedi Luke, but
that's fair. I guess it's probably not good on most other Rebel heroes. Probably it's decent on K2.
Yeah, I mean there are other characters you could use it on.
I mean, like it also worth noting that you can put it on an enraged Chewbacca, and it's basically impossible to knock off without Force Push.
Yep. Also true. Then that would be hilarious to put it on Chewie.
Probably a little bit more thematic than Luke, but
yeah. Actually, do Luke and Lando ever even like really talk to each other in the original trilogy? I feel like this is going to be a staple Rebel list, and we need to come up with a name for it, and I can't think of anything.
I don't know. I think we could just call it "This is how the Force works." But I do that. I mean, they've got to have some sort of interaction in Return of the Jedi, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think like briefly in the briefing room.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty much it, though. They like shake hands or something, and then they interact ever so briefly in the Jabba barge fight too, I think. I
mean, so they've clearly done some interaction prior to Return of the Jedi, right? Because they've set up like the whole thing. Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't have like Flyboys is actually a from like Han Luke interactions, but I can't think of like a moniker for Luke Lando. Yeah, that is appropriate.
There's definitely not like on-screen interaction between the two of them. I'm sure that there's like books or comics.
Yeah. Anyway, listeners, if you have a suggestion for the list name for Luke and Lando together, please let us know. I would love to come up with something for this list other than Luke/Lando, because I think it looks amazing. I think that if Lando is in the mod in time for Invader League, I will be playing it.
Oh,
because Luke is my style.
You can't be like, yo, I'm gonna play Republic and then bail before the cast.
Dude, you know me. I literally have a waffle in my avatar on Discord.
That's
So
that's fair. That's fair.
anyway, should we talk about sort of where we think, sort of just spitballing meta?
I answer yes, but I would like to hit one more thing that we didn't hit yet. There is a
Okay.
new command upgrade in
Yes.
Lando's pack that was spoiled. It's called Inspiring Presence. Friendly units at range 1 to 4 can use your courage value when checking whether they are panicked. This range can be reduced by other effects. I think clearly referencing War Weary here, I believe. And so it's 5 points command slot, which is a pretty competitive slot these days in lists that want command upgrades. Darth Vader is crying. I don't know. How do you feel about this?
It's interesting. I think it's interesting to combine with War Weary. I actually think so. As written, and Padme is also pictured on this on the card art on this card. I think you can use this on Padme, even though she's not a commander. She is an operative with a command slot. All it says is friendly units at range 1 to 4 can use your courage value when checking whether they are panicked.
I think you might be right, to be honest. It would be a little bit weird if Padme couldn't use this card.
Given that she's on it.
Yeah. So that definitely, I think, is at least suggestive that that is the case.
So as a follow-up to that, if you put this on Padme, is it immune to War Weary for the same reason the Field Commander is?
Because War Weary specifically references commanders.
Yes.
I mean, I would Mike, rules lawyer Mike over here would have to say yes, that is the case. Whether that's it, I mean, I would argue that it's probably clearly not intended, but I think rules as written, that's what it says. I also think that that's okay. I think Padme could probably use a little help at this point in time. I think it's become apparent that I think in addition to the points bumps that we've seen in the clone arsenal, like I think they kind of further hedge her out a little bit. At least until we see the generic. Yeah, so that's the new upgrade. I think that it's interesting. Probably pretty good on Padme. Now that I hadn't even really thought about that until you said it. I sort of feel like, generally though, commanders that don't really want this type of effect. Maybe it's okay on Palpatine, but I sort of feel like you probably still want like aggressive tactics or I don't know, something better.
Yeah, command slot. It's such a good slot. It's such a competitive slot, and like 5 points is not a lot, but it's more the cost of the slot. And unless you're specifically trying to use this to leverage War Weary in your condition deck, like range 3 is pretty far. And frankly, if you have units that are more than range 3 away from your commander, you're probably too spread out anyway. So I don't know. I don't feel like this is a super great upgrade, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, definitely has some niches, like in Padme's case.
Yep. All right, let's talk about meta predictions, meta spitballing. These are just our opinions, and obviously we're going to get a specialist pack at some point in January, and we have no idea what any of the units in there do, except for I think the T-Series personnel upgrade. But we don't know what the commanders do. We don't know what we know that there's like a medic, a astromech equivalent, and then some fourth unit. The clones have what's the clone's fourth guy? It's a comm specialist.
Comm specialist, yeah.
Yeah, and
knowing that's a comm specialist seems sort of potentially dirty with fire support. We'll see. I just like there's like some unique synergies that like Rebels and Imperials comm specialists don't have access to. Right.
And then the droids have what appears to be some kind of like like a probe droid thing. They look a lot like Maul's probe droids. But so we don't really know what those do. We do know that the commanders are. We also know that the commanders are 55 points, which is especially relevant for Separatists because previous to that, their cheapest commander was 170 points. Whether you're taking a field commander, AAT, or Grievous, of Of course, Dooku is 200. So 55 points opens up a lot of, even if he like literally does nothing, if he's just standing there and has a defensive stat block and no keywords, that could really open up Separatist list building. But we don't know what those do yet, so we won't speculate too much on those. Do you want to do this faction by faction? Is that the easiest way to do this?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we can probably talk about the meta as a whole after we kind of like wrap that up. But I do think we can go faction by faction. Why don't you want to start with Separatists, since they're maybe the most, I don't know if they're the most diverse anymore. But they definitely have been the most maybe diverse, I think, up until this point, as far as balance and things of that nature go.
Yeah, the best internally balanced faction is the phrase we like to use, which basically means there's lots of different possible Separatist builds that are good. And that, they have pretty much all of the units on their roster you could justify taking in some context or another, which now includes Droidicas, which are only 80 points instead of 100. So previously, I think they were sort of the only like clearly you leave this unit on the shelf kind of unit, but now that's not the case anymore. So yeah, I think you could plausibly make a droid roster with almost anything in it. I do think that you're still going to see 6 core units in pretty much every single Separatist list, whether that is all B1s or some combination of B1s and B2s with that T-Series personnel upgrade. I think he does a lot for B2s. We talked in the RRG episode about Separatists and specifically what he does for B2s. But, if you put that explosive, the HA upgrade on them with the T-Series, I think it rounds out to 93 points, which is clearly a lot, right? That's a phase 2, basically. But you're looking at 3 red and a white at range 3 with Blast, or a lot more than that at range 2. They average like 6 hits or something with Blast at range 2. Now, obviously that it's a grenade launcher, so it has exhaust, but it also has cycle. You always think of, the point there is you think of B1s as like a range 2 short range hammer unit, but when you do the T-Series combined with the grenade launcher, they actually have a very reasonable range 3 pool also. So I think you could see some combination of B1s and B2s as core units.
Yeah, I mean, the range 2 pool on the B2s is super, super sick and gross. So I agree with you. I think that, we're always going to see 6 core units in the Separatist faction, just due to the nature to how the faction works, I think. So I think double AAT is going to come back with a vengeance, mainly due to Field Commander. I think the fact that you can go like AAT, a bunch of B1s, and then not have to take Grievous and like take like 2 stabs or something, and that's like 10 activations, that seems really, really good. So I think that's definitely on the table for the CIS meta coming up. I'm not sure that we're going to see Cad Bane enter the fray. I would like to. I think that maybe Field Commander helps out there too, but I think that might be more of a wait till we see the generic thing and then figure it out from there. I still think like 160 points plus Cad Bane is a little steep in the hero/tank department. And Cad Bane is a little bit... he's a control piece, I think, in my mind. He feels like he should be a control piece. He's also kind of scalpely, but he's very finesse based, which is like the CIS army is not very finesse based. It's very bludgeon your face in as hard as possible. So I think he just doesn't like really fit with what the theme is doing there. I think we're gonna see less Grievous, and I think we're gonna see Dooku, and I think we're gonna see Field Commander AATs, particularly with all the like reductions in cost to Force users. I think Dooku becomes much more of a go-to if you're like pairing Grievous and Dooku. I think I think if Force users are going to be in the meta, it's now. And so maybe that won't happen, but I expect that if it does, Dooku's just going to be in most CIS lists.
If they're not running Field Commander AATs.
Yeah, which are also good against Jedi,
Yeah.
So, it's kind of half of one, half a dozen the other as far as CIS is particularly good at fighting Jedi. Surprise, surprise. That's kind of what they did. So, but I think outside of that, I'm not sure how much diversity we're gonna see as far as like support options and special force options. I still think BX commando droids are probably sitting on the sidelines for the most part. Maybe you see a token sniper team.
You'll see some sniper strike teams for sure.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna like make waves as like crucial elements to lists. And I guess we probably should talk about Darth Maul too, right?
Yeah. So I think you can take him with clearly either Grievous or Dooku, or you can take him with an AAT Field Commander, which I did the other day. It was super fun. Yeah, he's great. He is. People are already finding how fragile he is. He does not have a lot of command cards that assist with his defense. And of course, Juyo Mastery requires him to be wounded before it works. So he effectively has 5 wounds. Like, he's surprisingly vulnerable to getting punched to death by stormtroopers and other stuff. Like, you have to be really careful with him. He's probably the single most fragile force user in the game.
Oh,
would you say that's accurate?
Stop it. Operative Darth Vader laughs at you. I don't know.
Okay, well, but if we're comparing, if we're having like a cage match between Operative Darth Vader and Darth Maul about who's more fragile, that's not like that's not exactly a ringing endorsement of his durability.
No, it's not. That was kind of my point. I mean, I don't think. So I think, to some effect, we haven't really had a conversation around Force users and their durability. The difference between 6 wounds on our standard Jedi and the 7 wound Operative Luke is just huge. In addition to the fact that he's got like 3 cards to give dodge tokens. But like I think the world we live in now is very different than the world we lived in a year ago, as far as Jedi durability goes. And I think, to your point, being effectively at 5 instead of 6 compounds that further.
He's definitely a finesse unit. Now he can clearly, and we've talked about Maul on this cast in the past, there are a number of extremely unique and powerful things he can do. But I definitely don't think he's going to be like a, every Separatist list kind of unit, just because he is so difficult to use.
Yeah, I mean,
That doesn't mean he's bad, but
yeah, I mean, finesse units are notoriously hard to play, right? Like, it's like playing a TIE Interceptor in Squadrons on that asteroid map. You're like whipping around stuff, and like all of a sudden there's an asteroid in front of you, and you can't turn, and you're just dead. Because you're going like 6,000 miles an hour. And I feel like Maul is very similar, right? You're like, once you're in a situation where he's gonna die, it's like very hard to get out of it. So yeah, I mean, I think Maul is one of those units that if you play perfectly, he's really good. If you don't play perfectly or don't play close to nearly perfectly, you probably are gonna struggle with it a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how many people can figure him out in the time frame that they have, I think.
I do think just structurally we're not going to see his full potential until you can take him with a 55-point commander, personally.
Yeah. I mean, I think finesse units traditionally work well in high activation lists, right? Where you can ensure that you're going last. 55-point commander really helps out with that. I imagine there will be some sort of 12 activation Maul monstrosity that we'll be dealing with at that point in time.
Oh, I've already begun spitballing.
Yeah,
100% possible.
I'm sure you have. So
Yeah, you can do it with like stabs too. Like you.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
Maul,
it's like 12
B1s,
activations and
T series
yeah.
stabs. 12 activations. That's the thing you can do.
Yeah, you don't have to take Rebel Trooper quality activations with no heavies, right?
Right.
You get to have all the things.
Yeah.
It's still really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see. So yeah, I think probably the best list right now is the double AAT Field Commander one. We'll see if that endures past the Specialist Pack release or not. It's possible that the Specialist Pack release just makes that better because there's a repair bot in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. I think that the fact that we're reasonably talking about a mechanized meta and not joking around about it is a good thing.
Oh yeah, a year ago we would have been like best list double heavy, and you would have been like, all right, Jay.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
No offense to Jay, I love your double heavy list.
He does too, and
he did well with it
for sticking with it. But I mean, it's been a tough time for vehicles in Legion up until this point.
It has, yes. All right, let's hit Republic next. Let's stick with the Clone Wars opening here. You're the Republic pundit here, so
yeah. So I think Republic's in a really weird spot. From a figuring out what is good standpoint, like it's clear that stacking clone trooper keyword is really powerful. The lack of standbys makes it so that you're vulnerable now, which it certainly makes it more fair, but and depowers I think some of the lists that were good. Combined with the points nerfs I should say, to the phase 2s and ARC trooper units. I think I don't want to say this definitively, but I do think ARC Star is close to dead. I think a list with 2 full arcs that can only shoot once a turn is a little bit more questionable. I think without standbys, it was probably dead without the points bumps, just because it really counted on funneling your standbys through those super good units. So I think most clone lists are just starting with 3 arc strike teams and Rex and building out from there. I think you're probably gonna see a lot of Rex balls. I don't think they change a lot. They're gonna lose an activation. They're gonna go to 10 activations instead of 11 with R2. They probably just cut R2, and it's pretty much the same list, just without standby sharing, and everything's got offensive push. We've said that a ton of times. We don't need to drive that into the ground. With that being said, I think that there is room in the Republic faction to be creative and more combo oriented as far as the meta is concerned. I think Kenobi has gotten a lot better, particularly with barrier. I mean, you were saying earlier that you wanted to try out a barrier situational awareness list, which, I mean, it could be good. I don't. The training slot on the phase 2s is less competitive than it was before.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that I think you can make an Obi-Wan list and not kind of lean on situational awareness spam, and still have it be really durable just by virtue of having Obi-Wan with barrier, and you still put offensive push or whatever you're going to put on the phase 2s anyway, and not worry about spamming dodges. But yeah, I think there's more room for an Obi-Wan list than there was before. Phase 1's got cheaper. You can get to 10 activations in an Obi-Wan list with some combination of phase 2s and phase 1s. I was spitballing earlier. You can take a handful of phase 2s and still get there. You can't take 5, but
no.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're still mostly going to see Rex. I think they're still great. The standby nerf to me feels a little bit like, if you remember back in January, just before, actually, I think this was just after LVO. They did the comms relay and withdrawal creature trooper rules changes, which basically said that emplacements could not take comms relay. and that separately creature troopers had to actually take the withdrawal action to leave combat before they just essentially had like blanket disengage. Both of those quote unquote nerfs, afterwards, like shore troopers were still top Empire meta, Tauntauns were still top Rebel meta. They were basically like play experience nerfs, but they didn't have that much of an effect on the overall competitiveness of the underlying unit. I think that standby sharing maybe is a little bit more of like a straight nerf, but I think ultimately it still falls into that category. Like you have to. Republic is still going to be really good, and Rex lists are still going to be lists that feel really hard to kill and can punch you in the face. But you just have to like play the game now.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Republic players are going to have to really rethink how they play the game from a kind of a survivability standpoint. Before it was very easy to not lose a unit, just because like you had a threat bubble, right? And now when you like if you kind of step up and take an early attack, you can really get punished for that, and that's not a bad thing, just to be clear. But as someone who stepped up and did a lot of shooting early in the turn before, you really have to rethink how you're playing that faction, because you can't go first activation, aim standby, and then second activation, like double move but have a standby up anymore, right? And so I think for me, I think clone lists are going to be way less aggressive, generally speaking. They're not going to be able to box you out of certain situations. They're going to be able to do a lot of damage to you, but they're going to put themselves in vulnerable situations in order to do that, unless it's like the Take That Clanker's turn. So I also think on the Republic side of things, I do think that like Saber Padme may be a sleeper in like the vehicle thing. I think that really depends on if people are banking on double AAT being a big thing, and if they're taking specific, like if they're taking impact intentionally to counter that the Saber will probably suffer. And unlike the double AAT list, the Saber Padme list really relies on the Saber to like live the whole game. And if it dies, your eggs are in that basket.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, that could be interesting. I do think you'll see, I mean, you basically said that they'll be a lot less aggressive. I think you'll see more like a wind up to the end of the turn knockout punch type situations where you just have a bunch of quote unquote stalling actions with units in relatively safe spots where they're just taking aims and dodges, and then you have a handful of units at the end of the turn that kind of suck up all those aims and just deliver, when your opponent only has one or two activations left, deliver like a knockout punch.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I actually think Overwatch standby units may be a good deterrent for that type of play specifically. Not that like people are doing a lot of that now, but like if you have, like an Ident Overwatched or something at like range 3 to like crack a clone unit as it steps in to take that wind up shot, I actually think that there may be some play there if you do it like later in the turn after their snipers have gone and all that sort of thing. So I think it's a little bit of corner case, but I do think it's interesting that they might get eaten by the thing that made them good.
Well, and you can still also do an actual Overwatch list with Republic still. You just use Padme or Anakin instead of clone troopers.
I mean,
I'm not saying that's necessarily good.
I've put it together like so many times to try and make it good. I'm gonna be honest. I'm struggling to find a list that is not 8 activations that looks anywhere close to good on paper.
I mean, you could do Rex Padme. You don't have to do Anakin and Padme in the same list.
Yeah, I'm not sure like one standby is enough. Especially on one very fragile standby.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see it. Yeah. It's also range 2 instead of range 1, so you can pull it back even further from the line. It's basically unstrippable.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Very good. It's super good, unless they have like Cassian or something.
Right. All right. Speaking of Cassian, why don't we talk about Rebels?
This was your neck of the woods. I've got all sorts of thoughts, but I'm gonna let you start us off on this one.
So Rebels got, without question, the most changes in the points updates in the errata. I want to say I think it's a little bit of the Wild West, but I think there are some units that you probably still aren't seeing that much of, like Jyn and Han. What you are going to see more of, I think, is T-47s and Rebel veterans. Possibly in the same list. There are some very scary 12 activation double T-47 Rebel veteran hostile lists that I've seen floating around.
So let's have a come to Jesus real quick. Do we actually think double T-47 is going to be good?
I don't know. I think it's
I'm
possible.
asking you to put your chips on the table. Where are you putting them?
I'm going to say no, because there's still a lot of critical in this game.
Okay.
And T-47s, sort of, whether they want to be there or not, even with the compulsory move changes, tend to kind of end up close to or like in the middle of your opponent's army at some point. And they get shot by everything at some point in the game. I mentioned that I ran Maul in an 18 in a practice game a little bit ago. I actually faced one of those lists, the 12 activation double speeder, Rebel veteran list, and I had no impact in my list. I didn't have saber throw on Maul. I had the AAT, but that main gun has impact 1, critical 1. So it's kind of unreliable. Like, you're going to force 1 save, maybe 2. But, if you're pumping shots into a T-47, that also means you're not shooting the vets or the MK2s or the snipers with your AAT. So, but the short version is I ended up killing both airspeeders with basically nothing but like the AAT occasional double tap and E5C crit fishing. Just because, Maul kind of at some point got into the veterans. I got like a couple early MK2 kills, and like there was nothing else to shoot. So I was just like aim shooting T-47s for 4 turns, and he even had R2 and he healed both of them. He used both of R2's heals and I still killed both T-47s. So I think the short answer is maybe. I think they're still going to be hard to use. There's like crit fishing is still a thing, and you've got lists out there like an ISF Tactical Strike where you can reliably stack crits repeatedly. There's still a lot of, like, you have DLTs or critical guns. There's still so much critical out there that I think it's possible that they still just drop too fast. But surge crit on them does make a difference. Their offense is legitimately scary now. They've always been good at flanking line of sight blockers. They're impact 3. So if we're in a meta where vehicles are important, impact 3 with a 6 dice pool that has surge crit, you're probably going to be forcing 4, if not 5 saves on vehicles with that pool. So they're great tank hunters. The harpoon is free now. I don't know. We'll see. They're still very much a glass cannon unit. The cannon has more actual cannon to it now. And they're cheaper. But who knows? I guess that's a long way of not really answering your question.
I mean, we got definitive, and then you got less definitive as time went on, which, that's fine. So how are you feeling generally, T-47s aside, about where the Rebels are at?
Pretty good. I mean, even before the points update, you got the Mandalorian release, the Clan Ren release, which was great. Mandalorians are great. That's a very competitive list when you take any number of Mandalorians, but I've seen, the triple Mandalorian lists with jetpack rockets, basically like the Rebel equivalent of an Alpha Strike list being very good. I actually played such a list a couple weeks ago. It was really fun. It was the first time I'd actually ever done that, and I was like, wow, this is great. So you had that, and then we had the points update, which made a lot of things more competitive. I could see some lists where people actually take Wookiees as like a linebacker unit. Scale and lethal makes a big difference on them. They've always had a lot of wounds. 12 wounds is a lot. Their saves are garbage, but 12 wounds on one unit is still a lot, right? That's kind of like a souped up concept of B1s, where you're just saturating wounds. I think Mandalorians will still continue to be more popular than Wookiees, but I could see like a one of Wookiee situation. The Z6 got cheaper. I've had a couple lists where I've like taken them and not felt terrible about it. I think the DLT is still better if you can afford the 6 points, but 6 points is more of a difference than 4 points. I don't know.
I think this is interesting because like the Rebel Z6, I think at one point in time was the best gun in the game.
Yeah. It was.
And like you and like Kingsley and a few like other of like the math guys, right? Like this is the efficiency gun, right? Like this is where it's at. And the fact that it's still efficient but we're not using it is super interesting.
Well, it's been, I mean, just to be blunt, it's been power crept.
Well, I get like that's what I'm attempting to say here. Like,
yeah,
the fact that I mean, it's still super efficient, but the fact that the DLT has range 4 and critical 1 is, but like less dice is an interesting. It's interesting what is weighted there, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the DLT's roughly as efficient, except it also shoots at range 4. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine. Like I've run Z6s since the points update and felt okay about it. Like 60 points for a core unit with a heavy that throws 10 dice is fine. I don't know. The vets are interesting. I still hate MK2s. Maybe I just suck at using in placements, but every time I run a list with MK2s in it, even though it's 4 wins now, I'm like, why did I pay 38 points for this? When I could just pay 2 more points for Rebel Trooper unit naked that actually does things.
Yeah, I mean, the cumbersome keyword is just really, really rough.
It's really limiting, especially on something that has range 3.
Yeah, it's
mortars. Mortars are a little better off simply because they have range 4. So the situations where they can aim and shoot, there's a lot more of those, and they have suppressives. So even if they don't kill anything, they're still doing something good and useful. It's really hard to get shots with the MK2, and they can't use cohesion for cover, so they still get deleted.
Yeah, I also think it's super important that like the mortar can punch something before it punches you back with everything, right? Like maybe they can shoot like a T-21B at you or a sniper or whatever, but like that's not going to kill you. It will wound you, but it's not going to take you off the table. Whereas like the Mark II's, like anything that enters my threat range can kill me, like instantly. Which I think it's got that's, and I don't think the 1 wound helps much.
Yeah, it's 3 wounds to 4 wounds with a white dice. Yeah, I don't know. It's still range 3 and with cumbersome. I still don't like it. The Rebel Vets, however, with range 4 on the CM93, it's good. I'm not sure if it's like, the jury's still out for me on whether that's better than 8 points better than a DLT. They have the same number of wounds, right? 5 white save wounds. They don't have nimble. It's got 1 more dice at range 4, which isn't nothing. It's got critical 2 versus critical 1, which also isn't nothing. But it's pretty unlikely to roll 2 surges on 4 dice. I don't know.
So
I've been kind of whelmed by them.
That's fair. Is there any play there with like Lando, Overwatch, vets?
Possibly. I mean, if Ace in the Hole still only gives you 1 standby token. But yeah, maybe. Like their range 3 pool is good. It's not that much better. It's not as better as the DLT pool than people think. on average, the DLT pool is 3.86 hits. The range 3 pool, and the vet pool with the heavy is 4. So like it's better, but it's essentially like one die facing better.
Just to say not by much.
Right. So yeah, they're fine. They definitely needed it. You can definitely fit more activations if you do something like take 3 vets and 3 MK2s. But then you have 3 MK2s. Like, I mean, I'd rather just take 3 DLTs and 3 naked rebel troopers and end up with roughly, and you actually have more points to play with if you do that.
That's fair. I mean, I will say that MK2s are at least like naked rebel troopers that can kill things, right?
Sure.
I mean, like they're naked rebel troopers that can break cover.
If they get to shoot, naked rebel troopers can move and shoot.
Yeah, that's true.
MK2s can't do that, but
what do you do?
Yeah, I know. I'm just so anti-MK. I'm just so anti-MK2. I don't know. I'm sorry. Can't do it. I hate them. So probably irrationally.
So if there was a rebel list you were gonna play, what would it look like?
Me personally, it would involve Jedi Luke, and I mean, I think it would be like Jedi Luke, an officer, some snipers, and some rebel troopers. And that's it.
No Lando.
Oh well, I mean, Lando's not out yet. If we're talking about a world where Lando exists, then clearly Lando's in there.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, right now, like gun to my head, tomorrow, legally units, I would go with some kind of Luke, generic officer, snipers, rebel troopers situation, which is very similar to what I played somewhat successfully in. What season are we on in Invader now? I think it was season 4.
Yeah, it's season 6 now. So
yeah, it was season 4. I was 3rd with Jedi, with a list like that, basically. Now, granted, that was a different meta, but that was also a meta where like short trooper relay was a thing. So it's not like they weren't dealing with very hard hitting gun lines, right?
Well, and questionably, they're much, much better at dealing with them now than they were at that point in time, right?
Yeah, arguably. Yeah, because I didn't have any DLTs in that list, and I didn't have R2D2 in that list either. So
yeah, they've got a lot more going for them these days.
Yeah. So yeah, it'd be Luke R2 generic. You can get to 11 activations that way pretty easily. So, yeah, I also, like Sabine Mandos or just straight triple Mandos, also great, very enjoyable. So, something like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be excited to see people experiment. I think when the dust settles on Rebels, you're gonna still see a lot of Cassian. You're gonna see a lot of Mandos. Clearly Lando's going to enter the equation at some point. And I think that you will see that 12 activation double airspeeder vet list. And I still don't think you'll see much of Jedi Luke, as much as I personally love him. He's still hard to use, as most Force users are. And even like in his heyday, he was never that popular. So even though I will stand by his awesomeness. Well, you play me so often that you got like Jedi Luke Stockholm syndrome.
Like, so we were that one time we were playing at Gordon's, and we were like, you know what, we've practiced enough. Let's swap lists and see how it goes. And I played Operative Luke for like the first time, and he just like put the game on his back, and like I've never played him before, and like I was just like, huh.
That's what he does.
I'm like I literally could have no other units in my list and just have like a bunch of pass activations in their place, and I would be winning right now. like I don't know. He's really good. I mean, in all fairness, lists have changed a bit since that time as far as things you're playing against. But man, he's dirty.
He is. Yeah, he's good. He's real good. He's my favorite. I think so. I've had we've liked to joke in the past about how I've had many passing fancies for different units. Luke is my favorite unit in the game, and yeah, I think that is still true to this day. So I would love for Rebels to be in a spot where I can run like a Jedi Luke list for Invader and feel excited about it. It's unclear if Lando is going to be out in time for that to happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if he is, I think it's a no questions. I will say, judging by all the stuff that you mentioned, I think Rebels are clearly in a very versatile position. I think headed into the new meta, probably of everybody, they've got the most options. I think.
I certainly think that internally speaking, their meta is the best that it's been probably since the game came out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's probably going to be 5 or 6 good Rebel lists. At the end of all this,
that's what I mean. Yeah,
and it's gonna be cool to see.
Yep. All right, let's hit Empire.
Man, all right. Well, this is tough because I think there's only going to be one good Empire list. Maybe. So I also think it depends on Kallus, but I do think that Iden Tax Strike is tough to beat in the Empire side of things.
I agree with you. I'm looking sad and nodding at the same time because I am in agreement.
I know that I personally have been like trying to fight the wave of people saying that the list is unbeatable. I don't think it's unbeatable, just to be clear, but I do think it probably is the best list right now. Potentially in the entirety of the game. I think across all factions, I think Iden Tax Strike may be the best list. I don't think
for those that don't know, let's talk specifically about what that list contains.
Yeah, so this is it's just a straight 3 shores, 3 mortars, Iden, and triple ISF with offensive push. Iden can be kind of configured in a few ways. I've seen some people take the gun, some people not take the gun. But really what the list relies on is infiltrating Iden and your 3 ISF and tax striking on turn 1 or 2 to just blow your opponent out of the water, and then leveraging the short trooper and mortar range to basically back up your front line, right? It is really strong. I don't think it's Rexstar, Arcstar strong, to be clear, like pre-standby nerf. I think those lists were far more degenerate. And that is coming from somebody who was degenerate with them. But I mean, I think it's probably, it is at least on par with Rexstar and Arcstar without standby tokens. I think maybe better. Just because I think if clones did not get the points nerfs, I think Rexstar would probably still be better. But I think, it's weird, because it's a combination of units that like on their own right now are not like super great. Like I sort of feel like Iden is fine on her own, but she's not like, I mean she's good, but she's not like, she's not as stellar, I think, as I thought she would be, like outside of this tax strike thing. And I think similarly ISF have been a little bit more in the Pathfinder's camp, I think, than I expected them to be too. But I think in this list specifically, they're real strong. I do think ISF are probably the best special forces unit the Empire can leverage. Now, putting that all to the side, could somebody like take a palp barrier thing and make it work? Maybe. I don't know. I think it's tough in a world where like your strike teams get blown off the table by a tax strike on turn 1.
Yeah.
I could Kallus Vader, bring some things to the table against tax strike. Sure. I also think that if enough people are packing covert observation, this list could be a lot less good.
Covert Ops or Sabotage?
What I don't know.
The Rebel one?
The Rebel one.
Yeah, sabotage communications.
That one, sabotage communications. That's what I meant to say. If I think if every Rebel player is packing sabotage comms, and I think if Lando's out, that's kind of free.
You should be,
right?
Yeah.
Like if you're an invader and playing Lando, like you should have sab comms in your somewhere in your command hand or contingencies, like hands down. So, I think. I think we're getting to a place in the game. We haven't really had a situation in the game where there's like a rock, paper, scissors meta yet. I don't think the game has really been long enough for us to have enough units that like actively hard counter each other for that to be a thing. But like I think the sabotage communications tack strike thing is one of the first real rock, paper, scissors matchups that we can see now where you can be like, I'm going to sideboard a card and it wrecks you. Like it literally takes your list and makes it garbage. That's maybe some hyperbole. Like the list is still fine without tack strike. It's just significantly less good.
Yeah, it's kind of a perfect storm because you have a list concept that is heavily reliant on a specific command card. One that hands out 4 orders, right? And, sabotage comms is not like change of plans where it just delays it for a turn. Like if you play tack strike and your opponent plays change of plans, you just get to do it next turn, right? But if you play tack strike and your opponent plays sabotage comms, like you've played tack strike and you get to hand out 1 order with it. Yeah. And it just whiffs.
And I think that with, particularly if Lando is eligible, like you don't even have to play sabotage communications, right? Like you can be like, I'm going to play ambush, and if they play attack strike, then I'm just going to sub it out, right? And I think that, that's where the real power is, I think. In that you can hedge. You can be like, okay, I'm going to play ambush, sabotage communications you this turn if I need to. If you didn't play tack strike, I'll wait till next turn and play Luke's 1-pip and then sub that out for sabotage communications, right? And you're just like, that seems real good. And the only thing they can do about it is like shoot Lando in the head, right? And that's about it. So, but yeah, I think that the Iden tack strike list is just leaps and bounds ahead of anything else the Imperials can be doing right now. I think part of that is because the combination is really strong. I also think part of that is that like I think Empire still needs a little help. The like points reductions to stormtroopers were like fine, but I think that the fact that the Iden list is still running shore mortars instead of stormtroopers is pretty telling. And like how effective that points change was. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think storms could be interesting in the context of lists like Vader lists or like Palpatine lists where you have a selfish centerpiece unit, and you just need a core unit that can kind of chill and throw some dice and be reasonably durable without having to devote a lot of support to them. We'll see. I mean, now that it's 66 points for a DLT 20 Stormtrooper unit, they feel much more like a kind of opposite unit to the Rebel DLT, which is also 66 points. Their offense is slightly worse.
Your DLT is way better, just to be clear.
Clearly the weapon is better, but Rebel troopers have white staves and Stormtroopers have red staves, so it's kind of like better defense, worse offense, kind of a thing. Clearly they still hate snipers, like any red save unit, and I think that they're still going to have the Iden list aside. They're still going to have a tough time specifically against Republic, because ARCs just absolutely shred red save core units. We saw this dynamic in Invader Season 5 where the Empire win percentage against Rebels and CIS was actually like 50-50, almost exactly. but against Republic it was like 30-70. I mean,
it was real
Bush,
bad.
And I'm not exaggerating. Like when Bushman ran those numbers, I was just literally like, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
I think it will get better without standby sharing and with some of the points increases, but I still think the kind of standard, red save core reliant Empire lists are going to struggle against arc snipers because Empire has always been somewhat weak to snipers, and Republic has ridiculously good snipers. So we'll see. I want to root for the stormtroopers. I've been making the case for them recently, but as I'm sort of trying to zero in on a list for the upcoming Invader season, Empire's sort of falling out of my pool of things that I want to play, and that sort of is telling to me that, like, at least with storms, maybe I'm not quite willing to put my money where my mouth is. I would love for someone to succeed with the storm list. I think they're probably better than people give them credit for, but I think they're also probably not as good as other things Empire could be running, specifically the 3-3-3 tax strike list. So,
yeah, I think you're right. I think storms are definitely better than people give them credit for. I think even before the points update, that was probably true. But it's one of those things, like, it's really hard to just like not take the Iden tax strike list if you're playing Empire, because your percentage goes up like 15%, I think, to winning.
Yeah, it's just so much better. Even if you can say that like a storm based list is fine, it's clearly still worse than possibly the best list in the game.
right. I mean, and I think, like, barring mirror matches, like Iden tax strike is probably like 65 to like 68% to like win any given game that's not a mirror, probably.
That seems high to me.
Maybe that's a little too high, but like
that's high.
It's definitely like more than like the maybe coin flip you have with everything else, and if you're playing Republic, it's like way worse than a coin flip. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think the TLDR is Empire, Iden tax strike list, great. Other lists possible, but not as good. So you probably won't see them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see somebody like take a tank in an E-Web and make it awesome, but
or like 160 point ATST.
Yeah,
I mean, think about that. The ATST is 160 points. All right. Anyway, you got any final thoughts?
I'm really looking forward to the new meta. I think that it's going to hopefully be more wide open than it was before. I'm always of the vein that there is always going to be a best list. That's just kind of how games work, or games like this, right? It's very difficult to have in a best of one tournament setup have something. Like, it's very hard to like have like a StarCraft dynamic, where like you can if you're like amazing and you're playing against amazing people, you can play whatever you want. It's tough to balance a game that perfectly. I think if it's not Iden tax strike or Rexstar, it'll always be something else. But I think that we're headed into a much healthier meta than we had a month or two ago. So I'm looking forward to it.
I agree. Yep. Yeah, I'm super excited. I still, for as much as I joke about sidelining Empire in my own personal waffling, there's still like 8 lists that I want to play from the other 3 factions. So, yeah, I feel pretty good. I just, so many possibilities. I'm probably going to end up on some kind of Jedi Luke or Maul situation because I love Force users, but, like B2 spam's not out of the question. Some kind of Cassian, Lando, Rebel gun line also part of the equation. And then, of course, toying around with playing Republic because they're the only one I haven't done yet. So,
do it. You won't. Ed will light you on fire if you do that, though. Be careful. Be careful. He doesn't like the traitorous guys that switch factions for the flavor.
Hey, they just got nerfed. They're not the flavor of the week anymore.
I don't know. He lit me on fire for it. So.
Well, that's because when they were the flavor of the week.
Look, man.
All right. Well, we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Mike.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.